Good day everybody, my name is RagingRaptor. In today's video I would like to give you my personal experience after finishing the grind in the GSOR. So let's firstly start with how long it took me to finish the GSOR. And if the video is a little bit laggy, I hope it isn't. I'm just rendering the German version right now. I'm a little bit in a time crunch. Anyway, I actually got an ace tanker in this tank and I had 92 games in total and a 63% win rate. It is better than what I had in the LHMTV, but it is also due to the fact that I almost exclusively played the GSOR in, how should I say, in platoon, in a 3-player platoon with people which are at least 2000 WN8, or, well, they were auto mortis guys, so they were good. Compared to a tank like the EBR 90, you can see we still were much worse, and we also had a decent chunk less it's called average base experience. Anyway, in those 92 games, we in total got 77% gun mark, 3000 combined damage, which is below what I would need for 95% gun mark. We got some patrol duty medals, 1 scout medal, a high caliber medal. What the hell, where did I get that came from? And we even got a fade-ins medal, which is a replay I'm going to have a look at on my YouTube channel. Well, at what you're going to look right now. Or later in another video. That's what I wanted to say. Anyway, first things first, the positive one. After coming from the LHMTV, this tank is a pleasure. Like, it's actually... No, well, it's not a pleasure, but it's a positive surprise. Because suddenly, you still have all around 10 degrees of gun depression. Which is great. Which is genuinely great. And suddenly, you also have 35 degrees of gun elevation. Like, as stupid as it sounds, that is incredible. And it feels so great and so convenient is probably the best word for that. Like, it genuinely feels convenient and good to have. Like, coming now from the tier 9 to the tier 10 tank, I'm just so disappointed of the tier 10 tank, and I would genuinely like to play the GSOR more because of this convenient gun elevation and gun depression angles. Just so you know, the tier 10 has 8 degrees of gun depression and 8 degrees of gun elevation, if you are lucky. Most of the time you have 1 to 4 degrees of gun elevation. And this is bullshit. Just to say, at least. Anyway, let's talk about the gun of the GSOR, or let's talk about what I did. I got the trucks and I got the engine with free experience, so it was around 50,000 free experience I wasted in here. And I used another 20,000 on the cockerel gun to just have the edge over other GSORs, or to be honest, I only really took it to get the better HE. It doesn't have better penetration, but 40 alpha damage more is a big plus. And slightly better aim time, a slightly better rate of fire, and slightly better average damage is also something which is nice to have. But it's definitely not mandatory for a tank like this. It's kind of the same as it was with the EBR 90, where you don't really need the better gun. As you can see, the gun stats are practically the same. Just the 90mm gun, the better 90mm gun, has better premium rounds, and they are not APCR, they are heat, for example, and it's better aim time and so on. So there was a better, like, the cockerel is a better gun than what the EBR has to offer when it comes to the upgrade from your stock gun. But again, it is not mandatory. The big disadvantage, once again, keeps to be the rate of fire and the stabilization on the move. And those are just things which I'm just like, why do they have to be balanced like this? I get that this tank should be a passive scout, but again, I already talked about this in my LHMTV video. In most maps, passive scouting doesn't really work well. It's more or less, yeah, it's just simply doesn't work well. But I also have to mention that subjectively, I am not really a passive scout. Like, even my ELC even 90, I am not going to play with Binus and with camo net. It's simply against my thinking. Because again, I personally want to be able to participate in the game and actually be able to win a game. And then again, I have to say it works pretty decently for me when I'm still rocking a 60% win rate while playing this tank more or less solo. And all having around enough, enough combined damage to gain the third gun mark if I play some more games in it. Like, again, I know how to work with scouts, but I also have to say I would have loved to see the British Scout lines to be like higher tiered ELC AMX tanks, like big guns, big alpha, sneaky, long aim time, long long reload time, which a tier 10 tank partially is, but then again, it has a battleship gun, which 4 other light tanks of now 7 also have. So yeah, that is stupid. It's a stupid thing to say, if to say it like that. Yeah. Anyway, the aim time is and the accuracy are not bad. They are actually pretty decent. They're actually almost good. They need just a teeny tiny touch bettering. And once again, I want to say that this tank is incredibly frustrating in that kind of sense. As accurate the gun is, it still misses a lot of shots, and I'm like, dude, this is really stupid. Not only do I only have 25 rounds, which I forgot to mention in my German video. Go figure. Good job, Raging. Good use of your script, Kappa. And second, with a long reload time of 7.7 seconds with a good crew, compared to the 6.46 seconds of the EBR with a lot more shells. Yeah, it's just frustration pure, like in its purest form. This is how it looks when you compare with the EBR90 and the RagingRaptor. Like, again, penetration-wise, it has the best penetration of both tanks. Except I would like to say the EBR90 has the better premium round. It is heat, it doesn't lose penetration over distance, and it can penetrate Stridswagen S1s and Stridswagen 103s and 103s Bs frontally through the lower plate or even upper front plate for the 103 version. The same goes for the RagingRaptor, which also has a premium round, which is more than enough to smack those little guys into their face. Plus, the RagingRaptor also have hash rounds, and I'm like, yes, it's actually an incredible good hash round in my opinion, with 102 millimeters of penetration. This guy has 9 and this has 42. Go figure. Now you are incredible poorly off. Then turret turning speed, the RagingRaptor is once again better. The EBR obviously the best. And just the reload, as you can see, they all have the same crew equipment, and the RagingRaptor has the best reload with 5.54 seconds, which is amazing. The EBR has still a very good reload time with 6.46 for what it can do with its HE, and lastly 7.7 in the GSOR. It's just frustration. It's just frustration pure. Gun elevation, gun depression, all tanks are fairly on close, except for the EBR90 being worst from all. But then again, I have to say, it's not really big of a problem. Like, you can work with -6, you can work with +12. At least it's all around -6 and it's all around +12 compared to the tier 10 vehicle and the tier 8 vehicle. Lastly, the accuracy. Again, the RagingRaptor has the same accuracy. Aim time on the EBR is amazing, and the RagingRaptor is almost equal. Lastly, the DPM, and this is where it gets stupid. Like, the EBR90 has 355 DPM more. I want to point out that the EBR90 is quicker in aiming and hits better on the move compared to GSOR. The GSOR's accuracy on the move is horrendously bad. And another thing I want to point out is the EBR90 has a very potent HE round. So this DPM is not 2200, but it's more close to like 2600, what the RagingRaptor has, in my opinion, compared to our 1873 DPM, where we can hardly use any HE, because not only does it have very little penetration, but also because we have very, very little shells to use. Hence I only rocked 2 HE rounds, but I usually use them in my games, and I usually had a decent penetration rate with them. But then again, I was only shooting at very lightly armored vehicles like enemy GSORs and so on and so forth. But then comes the RagingRaptor of 2600 DPM. Armor-wise, I bounced some shots in the GSOR's upper front plate, but please don't trust on it. It's stupid. Mobility-wise, the RagingRaptor is only a tick slower on acceleration, but then again it has a faster top speed of 5. And the EBR is faster in general because it's an EBR, it's a wheeled vehicle. Camo rating. That's just unfair. You pay so much for your camo rating as a GSOR, but it's only 2.5% better. That's nothing. Like, that's genuinely nothing. And to show you how nothing this is my little old, what should I say? This is my list where I can put in to see when I'm getting spotted and when not. So we take in here now for the first slot 86.86, and for the second slot the 37.3 from the from the RagingRaptor. Now let's see what difference this makes. So let's take somebody which has 445 meters of view range. When we are on the open field, this additional camouflage makes basically no real difference. Yeah, it makes no real difference. It makes a tiny touch of difference, like it's 10 meters, but on the open field, but that's absolutely nothing. In bushes, there is 2 meters difference, and those 2 meters are again a joke. So let's take something like 500 meters, which is what usually players on top level gameplay use on tier 10. There we have 12 meters of difference, and 12 meters for 2% is not a lot again. And when we, excuse me, this was not meters, this was my mistake. There, in the bush, the difference is now 12 meters again, which is not that much. And for 445 meters, it is 100 meters. And I have, 10 meters. Those are not really a lot of differences. And I have to say, like, this doesn't really make a lot of sense in my personal opinion. Like, for 2% more camouflage to basically give up every single hope of trying to win and carry a game is just bad, and it just hurts, to be honest. Like, it's no bueno. And the EBR 90 has like 5% more, so that this is a decent chunk more. We can do now the same thing with the EBR's camera rating, which was like something like this, I'm not entirely sure. And here you get to see the difference with 6% difference in camouflage rating. So on the open field, when somebody has 445 meters of view range, you can see it's around 21 meters of difference. So there you have a big difference already. And on somebody with 500 meters, you can see it is 24 meters of difference on camouflage. So yeah, and in bushes, it's also a pretty decent chunk of difference. In 500 meters, it's 24 again. And on 445 meters, it's around, what did I say now? Why 12? I'm stupid. I'm tired. 21. So there's no big difference, really. That's no really big, that's a big difference for this tank having good camouflage. And for the people which are saying, why I'm not playing with binos, I'm not sure if I already talked about this. I simply don't like binos because I'm way too agile and I try to move a lot more, and it just takes too long to put on. Yeah, I already talked about this. Lastly, the mobility. I think you need to get the big engine. The small engine is trash, like genuinely trash. Just 23 HP per ton ratio. Otherwise, the mobility is class worst, with top speed of 65 kph. But it's just kind of annoying when you're trying to get into a good position. And for example, going on a hill, on a cliff, or going into a good scouting bush on Proko or Malinovka, because either your teammate scouts are faster than you, or you're just like, man, I'm too slow. Anyway, I'm just too slow. Next thing, finally, the view range. 390 meters are a joke. Period. They're a joke. For a tier 9 scout, they are a joke, especially for a tier 9 scout which is born to be the scout tank. It's a joke. It's just a joke. With the same crew setup as the RagingRaptor has, we get in total an additional 26 meters of view range. with just the root because it has a better turret. And this is just annoying. This is like, why? Why is this a thing? Why does it have to be like this? It's genuinely annoying. And yeah, it's like, I would always pick a RU over a GSOR, to be honest. Always. In every single instance. Those 2% more camouflage and better standard round penetration do not make any sense. And anybody should just say no. And even though it is not the worst tank in the line, I can still not say that this tank is any good. I still believe the Setter is the best tank in the tech line. However, if I have to rank those tanks, I'd say it is Setter, like from fun play value. It's Setter, it's GSOR, it's Manticore, it's LHMTV. But that's about it. So you can't say anything else good about these vehicles. At least it wasn't a total disappointment like the LHMTV was. But again, now, what can we do to make those tanks more enjoyable to play? Because I know that some people from Wargaming are watching this video. They're just German community managers, or maybe French. So chances are this is not going to Minsk, but well, we can just hope and dream. Like, what I usually would say is, if Wargaming wants to keep the long reload, I'm fine with that. Like, this is not a big problem for me. This is not a big issue. I tended to like to play the ELC AMX bits, and I talked about this a lot already. But, 489 vehicle. Give it 250 alpha with standard rounds. This will bump up its DPM a tiny touch. Give the HE 90mm of penetration. Well, actually, you know what? Actually, Wargaming can think about, where is it? They can easily just copy the HE damage and penetration from the MUTs or the Indian Panzer. That would be great. As is the accuracy, I would also like to have 0.34. And the aim time should be either they keep it as is or make it also a tiny touch better with like 1.8 seconds aim time. That would make the tank a decent chunk better in my opinion. Like, that would already make them a lot more competitive. If Wargaming actually wants to make this tank good, Wargaming should think about giving it a 1.7 second base aim time instead of 1.9. And this tank should also get 400 meters of view range and not 390. Then, with 250 alpha, with 330 HE and 90mm of HE penetration, you would have a competitive and unique scout. Because you combine a great alpha, or a decently good alpha, with great penetration on standard rounds and of HE rounds. Plus, you are more or less accurate, making it more of a fun and sneaky tank to use, like what Wargaming I was actually thinking of doing. Plus, you can actively engage in the gameplay. And with just 400 meters, you will 400 meters of view range, we will get around 504 meters of view range. Basically what the Manticore has right now, 504. But then again, I'm going to talk about this tank separately, and don't get any hopes because I have good win rate on it. Playing with platoon mates for the win. Also, this was my crew basically. You can see it needs a lot of crew skills. It's not finished yet. I still need to have this at 100%. And then we'll see. Where is it? My gunner, which is here, had also this. So camouflage, snapshot, and so on and so forth. That's about it. I think there's nothing else to say. I can highly not recommend those tanks to play before they have to get a buff. I gave my opinion on what to buff. If you are happy that I told you not to play those tanks like any other content creator did, leave a like in the comments. If you're new to the channel, feel free to join me. I got some gameplays for you about those tanks, which I would like to analyze and show you. Other than that, if you didn't like the video, leave me a thumbs down. I'm always up for feedback. I guess the only feedback which you can give is either be more engaging or simply make a script. That would be a good idea. And lastly, if you subscribe to my channel, I will be incredibly happy, and you will see again a lot gameplays lately or soonish. And you will also see some final words about the Manticore, because, well, it needs its obviously its own video, because, yeah. But then again, I have to say this is the second best tank in the tank line, with the best one being, in my opinion, tier 4 tier, the Setter. Even though it still needs some working. But the Setter is actually a decent fun tank to play, compared to all the others. So this one, it works, but hardly any carry potential. Thank you so much for your attention, and bye-bye.